When her hug means more, a Stoic guide to emotional presence, Stoic Bloom. What if her lingering hug isn't a request, but a quiet test of your emotional gravity? Most men respond to physical closeness with action, but the unforgettable ones, they respond with stillness. In this video, we explore what it really means to answer a woman's unspoken invitation, not with charm, but with Stoic presence, containment, and the kind of silence that holds more than words ever could. Part 1. Her hug is not a signal, it's a mirror. A woman leans in, her arms wrap around your back. Her breath warms the space near your neck. She lingers longer than expected, not awkwardly, not urgently, just long enough to awaken something wordless in the air. And in that moment, what she's offering isn't clarity, it's reflection. She's not trying to tell you something. She's showing you who you are through her openness. But most men miss this completely. They interpret the hug as an invitation to act, to advance, to assume, or worse, they freeze. Afraid of doing the wrong thing, they do nothing at all. And in doing so, they miss everything. This is not a hug that asks for answers. This is a mirror, a soft, sacred test of whether your presence is anchored or anxious, whether you are truly there or just physically present while emotionally checked out. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Look within. Within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up if thou wilt ever dig." This hug is an invitation to look within, not at her, not at your outcome, but at your inner stance. Are you grounded or grasping, still, or strategizing? Can you hold the weight of this moment without trying to define it? Because here's the truth. She's not asking for a move. She's feeling for a mirror. She's watching what this moment reflects back about your emotional capacity. And the real answer isn't in what you do next. It's in who you've already become. If this stirred something in you, something quiet, maybe unfamiliar, but honest, don't just close the tab and pretend it didn't. Subscribe to Stoic Bloom and share this with someone who still thinks a hug is just skin deep. And hey, if Marcus Aurelius were alive today, he wouldn't scroll. He'd reflect and then probably comment something like, "Your stillness is your strength. You can do both." Like, comment, reflect, remain. Stoic Bloom. Her hug doesn't need your action. It needs your awareness. Part 2. She's not testing you, she's asking about you. Most men believe she's testing them, that her lingering hug is some kind of puzzle they're supposed to solve. But a woman who offers that kind of closeness isn't playing games. She's asking a question. And the question has nothing to do with your strength, your status, or your ability to lead. She's asking, can I feel safe in your stillness? It's not a conscious inquiry. It's not even emotional in the traditional sense. It's biological, energetic. It bypasses logic and enters the realm of instinct. Because the feminine doesn't seek control, it seeks containment. In that subtle, extended hug, she is watching you with her body, not to trap you, but to sense you. Can you stay rooted without rushing to react? Can you feel the ambiguity without needing to force it into clarity? Can you hold a moment of unknown without collapsing into performance? Stoicism teaches us that virtue isn't loud, it's steady. And the virtue being measured here is not how impressive you are. It's how stable you are when nothing is being said, but everything is being felt. Because when she hugs you like that, she's not giving you a green light. She's offering you a doorway into her emotional world. And if you step into it with urgency, with calculation, or with self-serving desire, she will quietly, permanently begin to step back. Stoic Bloom. She's not testing your moves. She's asking if your presence can hold her truth. Part 2. Most men react, few men receive. Here's what most men do in that moment. They either lean in too quickly, thinking this must mean she wants more, or they freeze, unsure of what she's trying to say. Either way, they miss the moment entirely because they are too focused on what to do rather than on how to be. But the rare man, the one she remembers years later, even if nothing physical happened, he doesn't react. He receives. He doesn't move forward. He doesn't pull back. He lets the energy arrive and remain unshaken. Why? Because his sense of self doesn't depend on the outcome of this moment. Because his masculinity isn't reactive, it's reflective. He doesn't need her hug to mean anything specific. He just welcomes what is without needing to own it, name it, or leverage it. In that stillness, she feels something she rarely feels with men. Freedom. The freedom to be vulnerable without performance. The freedom to not be decoded like a signal, but simply held like a wave. The freedom to express without consequence. And this man doesn't become unforgettable because of what he says. He becomes unforgettable because of what he doesn't require. If this part made you realize you've been reacting more than receiving, don't panic. You're not alone. Most of us learned action before presence, but presence can be practiced. So pause for a moment. Subscribe to Stoic Bloom if you're ready to stop chasing connection and start becoming the kind of man women feel safe leaning into. And if you've ever had a hug that haunted you later, drop a comment. You're not broken. You just didn't know it was never about the hug. It was about the mirror it held up. Stoic Bloom. Don't rush to respond. Learn to remain and let her feel your stillness. Part 4, presence cannot be performed. You can fake charm, you can rehearse lines, you can even memorize masculine posture, but presence, true, grounded, fully embodied presence, it cannot be performed. Because real presence has no audience. It doesn't seek applause. It doesn't adjust itself to manipulate outcomes. It simply is. Most men confuse attention with presence. They think if they're looking at her, listening to her, or touching her gently, they are present. But deep down, they're still calibrating, still managing how they're perceived. And women feel that. They may not say it, but they sense the difference. When you are truly present, you're not focused on what she feels about you. You're focused on what she's feeling within herself, and whether your energy makes that experience safer or more chaotic. Presence means you stop editing. You're not filtering your breath. You're not adjusting your tone. You're just there. Seneca said, "A man who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than is necessary." And when men try to perform presence, they're suffering unnecessarily, trying to be something they haven't yet embodied. So let go of the act. Don't perform calmness. Cultivate it. Don't mimic safety. Become it. Don't pretend to listen. Feel what's being said without words. Stoic Bloom. Presence isn't what she sees. It's what she can finally rest in. Part 5, she feels your inner posture before she hears your words, before you even speak a single sentence, before your fingers brush against hers. She's already reading you. Not your resume, not your pickup lines, not your shoes, your shoulders, or your watch. She's reading your inner posture, that invisible architecture behind your body language. The way you stand, not physically but emotionally. She feels the structure or the shakiness beneath your smile. And it's not mystical, it's biological. A woman's nervous system is evolutionarily trained to detect subtle threats, not just physical ones, but emotional incoherence. She can feel when you're out of alignment, when you're smiling to hide fear, nodding to avoid conflict, or complimenting to control an outcome. So when you hug her, or she leans in closer and your internal posture is grounded, no neediness, no hurry, no mask, something incredible happens. She relaxes because she finally feels someone who's not trying to win her, but simply withstands her. She feels not what you do, but what you don't need from her. And in that rare moment of energetic permission, her body softens into yours, not as a reaction, but as a remembering. If this just made you check your own emotional spine, good. That means your awareness is growing taller. Subscribe to Stoic Bloom if you want to become the kind of man whose presence straightens everything without lifting a finger. Share this with a friend who thinks posture is just about standing up straight, because the real posture is the one no one sees. And hey, drop a comment if you've ever felt someone feel you before you even open your mouth. Stoic Bloom. She doesn't need you to impress her. She needs to feel that you don't flinch under truth. Part 6. She will retreat if you can't hold it. Women don't retreat because they're dramatic. They retreat because they sense that you can't hold what they're offering. You might not say it, but your energy leaks it. The subtle tension in your shoulders, the anxious shifting of your gaze, the smile that's just a little too forced. She offers you an emotionally loaded moment, a pause in conversation, a vulnerable admission, a quiet but charged hug. And instead of receiving, you react. That's when she starts to shrink. And it's not personal. It's nervous system wisdom. Her body tells her, this is not a safe place to open. So she retreats, not to punish, but to protect. Epictetus said, it is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And when a woman retreats, it's often because your reaction, not your intention, was too much, too rash, too unstable. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to know what to say, but you do have to hold it. Hold her emotion like a tree holds the wind, unmoved at the roots, even if the branches bend. Because when you don't hold it, she learns that her softness must harden again. Stoic Bloom. She won't stay if her emotions have nowhere to land. Part 7. She's not waiting for a hero, just a witness. Here's a myth that's still harming men today, that a woman in emotional distress wants a hero, that she's waiting to be saved, soothed, solved. She's not. She doesn't need your cape. She doesn't need your advice. And she definitely doesn't need you to rescue her from the very emotion she's finally brave enough to feel. She doesn't want a hero. She wants a witness. Someone who can stay without judgment, without fixing, without flinching. But that's hard for most men, because we've been conditioned to believe that if we can't do something, we're worthless. That presence without productivity isn't manhood. So we try to solve, to reframe, to explain it away. And every time we do, we're unintentionally communicating, your feelings are too much. Let me make them more manageable for me. But the Stoic man doesn't shrink from emotion, his or hers. He doesn't rush to escape discomfort. He holds space the way Epictetus held the truth, steadily, without trembling. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say in that moment is nothing. Just breathe with her. Let her pain be pain. Let her joy be joy. Let her silence be sacred. A witness does not interpret. A witness sees. And by being seen without interruption, without editing, she becomes more of herself. So if you've ever tried to save a woman from her emotions, let this be your gentle wake-up call. She never asked for a savior. She just needed a man who could stay still long enough to see her. Subscribe to Stoic Bloom if you're ready to trade heroism for humility, and if you're bold enough to say, I'm not here to fix you, I'm here to feel this with you. Drop a comment if you've learned the hard way that silence sometimes speaks louder than any solution. Stoic Bloom. She doesn't need your answers. She needs your attention. Part 8. Intimacy lives in the uncomfortable. Most people think intimacy is soft, gentle, light, sweet. They think it's warm blankets and forehead kisses and long walks under moonlight. And sure, sometimes it is. But real intimacy, the kind that changes you, doesn't live in the comfortable. It lives in the places we usually run from. It lives in the silence after an argument. In the moments when she pulls away and doesn't say why. In the nights when you're unsure what she's feeling and afraid to ask. It lives in the pause between her confession and your reaction. Why? Because those are the moments that strip you down, when there's no script to follow, no charm to hide behind, just you, and your capacity to remain open inside discomfort. That's where intimacy breathes. If you flinch, she learns it's not safe to go deep. If you rush, she learns her vulnerability must be timed and tidy. If you avoid, she learns that parts of her must remain hidden. But if you stay grounded, stay warm, stay receptive, even while confused, she starts to realize she's finally found something rare. A man who doesn't use discomfort as a reason to run, but as a pathway to closeness. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." That discomfort in intimacy, it's not the enemy, it's the entrance. When you can hold that space, awkward, uncertain, emotionally charged, without rushing to end it, you create a depth that most relationships never reach. Stoic bloom. The deeper the silence, the more sacred the connection. Part 9. She remembers who stayed grounded. Time passes. She might forget what you wore. She might forget what you said. She might even forget where you went, what you ordered, how you kissed. But what she will never forget is how you made her feel in the moment she wasn't easy to love. When she was overwhelmed, when she doubted herself, when she pulled back without explaining why. She remembers not the man who made her laugh, but the one who didn't flinch when she cried. She remembers not the man who touched her skin, but the one who stayed still when her soul felt exposed. Because groundedness, real groundedness, is so rare it imprints. It tells her nervous system, you are safe even when you're uncertain. You are held even when you're messy. You are seen even when you are silent. Grounded men aren't born, they're built. They're carved by pain, sculpted by restraint, and polished by presence. They don't react, they remain. They don't chase intensity, they cultivate steadiness. And in a world full of flashing lights and fast love, a grounded man becomes a lighthouse. If you've ever walked away from a moment and thought, I wish I had stayed more rooted, you're not alone. Subscribe to Stoic Bloom if you're ready to become the kind of man whose calm gets remembered long after the moment is gone. And hey, share this video with someone who talks loud but never stays long, because groundedness isn't volume, it's virtue. Comment below, stillness over performance, if you're building that inner spine. Stoic Bloom. In a world full of reactions, be a refuge. Part 10. Her truth doesn't need translation, just space. Not everything she says will make sense to you. Not every tear has a logical backstory. Not every silence is a problem waiting to be solved. But here's what separates boys from men: the willingness to offer space instead of pressure, curiosity instead of conclusions, a soft exhale instead of a sharp opinion. She doesn't need you to understand every layer of her. She needs to feel that she doesn't have to shrink any of it just to keep you comfortable. You are not her translator. You are her container. And that means letting the truth she carries breathe, letting it breeze, letting it tremble, letting it be unclear, and still staying. Because what she's truly asking is simple. Can I bring all of me here? Not just the well-spoken, charming, rational parts, but the chaotic, the emotional, the unfiltered. And if you can hold that, not decode, not define, not deflect, just hold it. She will trust you with parts of her she didn't even know needed a home. That's not romance, that's sanctuary. And as Marcus Aurelius said, be tolerant with others and strict with yourself. When you practice that kind of inner discipline, you stop needing her to make sense and start witnessing her make space to be real. That's not easy, but neither is being unforgettable. Stoic bloom, her truth doesn't need fixing, just your quiet, anchored presence. Conclusion, she doesn't need a perfect man, just a present one. In the end, it's not the hug that changes her. It's not the touch, or the words, or even the intention. It's your energy, the invisible texture of your presence, the unspoken steadiness that wraps around her long before your arms do, the silence that doesn't demand answers, the stillness that doesn't fear her chaos. A woman knows when she's being touched physically and when she's being touched spiritually. And no matter how charming you are, how tall you stand, or how well you play the game, what remains long after she walks away is this. Did she feel safe in your stillness? Did she feel seen, not scanned, heard, not handled? Because when a man is grounded, when he's not trying to impress, interpret, or impose, he becomes the rarest thing in her life. A space, not a solution, not a savior, just a sacred, steady space. And it is in that space where her deepest truths rise. You don't need to figure her out. You don't need to know what to say. You simply need to remain calm, remain aware, remain human. That is your power. That is what leaves a mark deeper than words or skin. That is the man she never forgets. So the next time she hugs you longer than usual, don't move, don't rush, don't assume, just breathe. She's not giving you a green light. She's giving you a moment. The question is, can you hold it? If this video stirred something inside you, don't leave without anchoring it. Subscribe now and join the Stoic Bloom community, a space where stillness isn't weakness, where silence holds power, and where presence is the new seduction. Like the video if you've ever realized you reacted when you should have received. Comment with a moment that changed you. One where nothing was said, but everything was felt. And share this with someone who still thinks intimacy lives in words alone. Let's create a generation of men who don't perform masculinity. They practice presence. Stoic bloom, be still enough to feel what others miss.